tumerudi tena. This is the Morning Cafe on TV47. Karibu sana. You're right on time for the best morning show.
Absolutely.
This side of town.
Hotter than your morning coffee.
I tell you.
I'm Shiksha Arora. And of course, if you would like to interact with us, please feel free to do so. The hashtag is Morning Cafe TV47 at TV47KE. That is on X and Facebook. Actually, on X, it's
TV47 News KE.
Kenya.
Yes.
Right. TV47 News KE. And of course, Facebook as well as Instagram at TV47KE, at Shiksha Arora,
at Fred Ndimuli. Now, it is exactly 324 days into the year, only 41 days left before we bid this year goodbye, 2024. For those who are Christmas lovers, only 35 days to Christmas.
Have you put up your Christmas tree yet?
Just about to.
Just about?
Wait for the 30-day mark.
You know, I actually saw research that says that those who put up their Christmas tree ahead of time, in advance, are actually happier.
Yes, because you have a longer period to celebrate.
Yeah.
It's a festive season.
Yeah.
3 days left to the end of KCSE exams. I'll be telling you which papers they're sitting for today as well. It is also World Children's Day.
And yesterday actually was World Men's Day.
Yes.
So happy International World Men's Day. I hope someone wished you.
Unfortunately, no one did.
Well, I wasn't here, so if I was here, I'd have definitely wished you. And I've also wished you World Toilet Day.
Why me?
Everyone,
Okay.
in fact.
Happy World Toilet Day.
You know, it's very important.
Yes, yes.
Imagine life without a toilet.
It is. Okay. So happy World Children's Day to all the children of the world out there.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's take a look at what we'll be doing this morning. Of course, State of the Nation, a lot of discussions happening. Church versus state is still a big discussion point. We're anticipating the State of the Nation address by the President tomorrow before joint Houses of Parliament. Plus, there's a county funding crisis. Watu wanasema counties will shut down within the next few weeks kama pesa haitatolewa. So for those discussions,
We're
having Stephen Monania, Deputy Governor, Murang'a County. Joshua Kipto, Advocate of the High Court, he has also served as Speaker of the County Assembly of Nandi, and Professor Fred Ogola, a governance and economics expert. So do stand by for that conversation.
Right after that at 8 a.m. we'll be talking about relationships and is jealousy healthy in a relationship? We have Lydia Ziwa, Councillor, Richard Ziwa, Zimbalist, Councillor. Oh, I feel like that's a couple.
Okay.
That is a couple if I'm not wrong.
That must be.
And we also have a senior pastor, Global Outreach Missions Heritage Assembly as well. That is Evangelist James M. Darlington. Right. So yes, they'll be in studio telling us, is jealousy healthy in a relationship?
Interesting. It is a Taste Wednesday, so we'll be having Chef Mbugwe in the house. What are you cooking up today?
Oh my God, a storm, to say the least. But yeah, Chef Mbugwe is actually very good with his chicken. And yeah, there was also pork in the mix, so I'm sure it's going to be a very tasty one.
So a lot packed in the show this morning. Do stand by for that. A quick look at the headlines this morning. And I told you, church versus state is a big one. Gazeti la Taifa Leo, habari kuu kwenye ukurasa wa mbele, kanisa la kataa vya haramu. Serikali ya Rais Ruto yakosa faraja kutoka kwa kundi lililomuunga mkono wakati wa kampeni za kura za mwaka 2022. Kanisa la kataa vya haramu. Habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo.
On the People Daily, why bishops rejected Ruto cash and clergy say donations contravened fundraising law and was a way of buying power.
I told you this is a big discussion this day. Same thing, no holds barred, and we have an image there of the Archbishop of Nairobi Archbishop Philip Anyolo, who has rejected more than 5 million from President William Ruto. He's the same bishop who in 2019 rejected a donation of a car from the then Deputy President William Ruto.
Yes.
Worth about 4 million bob. He said, I don't need it. So yes, church versus state, a big headline there. Something different from the Daily Nation. Things
fall apart. So right here they have highlighted things that have not been working for President Ruto during his tenure because there's major crisis affecting key sectors. So this is of course the county cash crisis, as you mentioned, in Ndimuli. We also have university stalemate, as well as the big healthcare mess, SHIF, SHA, the teething problems, that's what they're calling it, as we reach a month after rollout. So what exactly is the plan?
It's actually close to 2 months now because it was rolled out at beginning of October. We are almost towards the end of November.
So
still teething problems.
I was just going to say that literally time has gone by, but we're still being told there are teething problems. How long until they actually finally address?
The teeth need to grow now.
The teeth need to grow.
That's the Daily Nation. On the Star, the good, the bad, the ugly at parastatals. While spending cuts worked for some corporations, others still struggle struggle to make ends meet and are heavily indebted. And this is a conversation that has been going on for a while. That's the Star newspaper today. We'll be back to take a look at that. Matters business.
Homes, churches overtake banks in T-bill holdings. Banks' T-bills stock drops by 20.9%. Digital platform high returns attract others. And that is the top story on the Business Daily. And yeah, we'll keep looking at that.
Tuvuke border tuingie Uganda. The name Nairobi screaming on the headline on the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Besigye missing in Nairobi. So they say the Daily Monitor last evening learned that the veteran opposition leader was last seen on Saturday evening at an apartment complex on Riverside Drive in the Westlands area of the Kenyan capital, where he had gone to see an unidentified person. That story is on page 5. I've seen his wife tweeting and saying that she believes he is being held custody by Ugandan police. He was actually in Kenya to attend the launch of Martha Karua's book. Kizza Besigye, this opposition leader from Uganda. So he disappeared in Nairobi. This is so embarrassing when a foreign paper has such a negative
but you know, of course, he's
story
opposition
about
politician.
your capital city.
He is opposition politician in Uganda, so...
You can see Raila missing in Kampala, Besigye missing in Nairobi. All right, that's a Daily Monitor and that's a big story.
I don't know, Ndimuli, if you saw this story about how this YouTuber, he was a vlogger in Uganda, was sentenced to 2 years in prison for talking, you know, badly about the president.
In Uganda, you don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, the kind of freedoms we enjoy here in Kenya, don't try that in Uganda.
So he just posted a video mentioning the president's name a few times, not saying the most positive things about him. And he was arrested and currently being imprisoned for 2 years for that.
Meanwhile, in Kenya, there's someone who talked smack about the president the other day.
Yes.
And was actually arraigned.
Wow.
So yes, some people are complaining, so everyone is repeating what he had said and saying even worse about the Kenyan president. Nothing much is happening. So some of the freedoms you enjoy in Kenya,
we take for granted.
Still in Uganda, the new vision.
Corrupt civil servants to lose pension. 5,000 ghost workers deleted from payroll. Now this is a very interesting subheadline. 5,000 ghost workers deleted from payroll.
It's something we're so used to in Kenya as well. So yes, issues to do with ghost workers, we know. Corrupt civil servants, we know. Whether or not they lose anything, that's a problem. In Kenya, do they ever get to lose anything? We don't know. They never get to lose anything.
That we don't know if that actually happens. Who is next Deputy Chief Justice? That's on page 6-7. The run continues to find out who the next Deputy Chief Justice is going to be. And yeah, down here, Museveni commissions zonal presidential skills.
Wanaangalia viatu hapo.
Yes. They're looking at leather shoes made by the youth, actually.
Discussions around coffee still making it to the front pages of the dailies in Uganda. Right here on the left-hand side, you can see why coffee registration deadline was pushed. The story is on page 10. So farmers, coffee farmers and the entire coffee industry, still a big discussion point in Uganda. Let's cross over to Tanzania.
Msimamo Chadema.
Masuala ya siasa. Mbowe azungumza migogoro na mizozo kinayopitia chama hicho, ahidi kukilinda kwa gharama yoyote. Alia kanuni kuwalinda wasimamizi wa uchaguzi hapa hawajajitoa. You know, there are civic polls coming up on the 27th of this month. It's only about a week away. So now you get to see politics being given prominence on the front pages. In Tanzania, mostly they talk about development and other human interest stories. Now, only 7 days to the elections, civic polls, now you see it being the main headline. But there's something that now we have to talk about here. Msuva aipeleka Stars Morocco. So now Taifa Stars, which is the national football team of Tanzania, has qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco next year.
That's fantastic news.
A few weeks back, I think was it last week, Uganda, the national team, qualified for the Africa Cup of Nations, and they had this story on the front pages. Meanwhile, Harambee Stars drew 1-0 with Zimbabwe last week, and they were bundled out of contention from the Africa Cup of Nations. So out of the 3 East African countries that come to 2027, you know, in 2027 we'll be jointly hosting the Africa Cup of Nations.
Yes.
Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania.
Tanzania, yes.
So we are the only team that will be jointly hosting the 2027 tournament that will not see the tournament in 2025.
Qualified. Well, it's okay. All I can tell you is, Ndimuli, let's just, you know, root for our neighbors.
Right now on Twitter, jirani.
Neighbors for everything.
It's also subject of one of the cartoons that we'll be saying. Okay, let's take a look at the Citizen.
Policy review targets real estate oversight, and the government is reviewing the land policy to keep pace with the growth of the real estate industry and pave the way for a regulatory body that will oversee the industry. That's on page 2.
All right. Matters politics and the civic polls coming up next week. Chadema rules out boycott as poll campaign start. There had been a lot of complaints with the preparations for the elections, and many people thought that the opposition party would boycott, but they've said no, we'll still be there, which I think is the best decision they've made.
All right.
Yes. Taifa Stars
Reach AFCON finals for the 4th time, and I like that they've actually emphasized on that 4th time. And yes, they beat the national football team. Taifa Stars will next year play in the African Cup of Nations final for the 4th time after edging out Guinea in a nail-biting qualifying match in Dar es Salaam 1-0.
Yes. Good thing they can even host their home games.
Yes.
In Dar es Salaam. Kenya, meanwhile, had to play in Uganda and everywhere else apart from Kenya because we don't have a proper stadium.
That's why I'm telling you, we're taking this whole neighbor thing way too seriously. We're actually flying there to play games now.
It's very unfortunate. Well, we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in a short while. For now, let's take a look at the weather situation today.
While driving out of the house, I was hit by a storm for some reason, literally.
That lasted for about 2 seconds and then disappeared.
5 minutes in total. I couldn't see anything. I was driving at a speed of 20. And then 7 minutes later, there's nothing.
I had to run into studio this morning.
Yeah, I had to run into my car.
So now we know who arrived
after.
Earlier than the other.
Let's blame the rain for now.
We start off with Homa Bay, and it's 21 degrees Celsius as we speak. Likelihood of rain at 5 p.m.
And that's at 50% actually at 2 p.m. and 60% to 70% in the evening from 4 p.m. onwards.
So it actually promises to be a very rainy day in Homa Bay today. As early as 9 a.m. there could be rain, thunderstorms. Highs of 26 degrees Celsius in Homa Bay. So yes, across the day, it is a rainy day in Homa Bay. Let's move to the Rift Valley.
So Kericho currently feels like 14 degrees, and it is 14 degrees. But yes, similar situation from mid-morning onwards, 11 a.m. We are expected to see lots of rain, 80% to 90% actually from midday all the way until 3 p.m. and then obviously it calms down a bit at 4, 5. But yeah, similar situation. Before that, you're only going to be enjoying a nice, sunny day. Well, partly cloudy sunny day until 10 a.m. after which the rain is there. Yes,
so definitely there'll be rain there. Highs of 22 degrees Celsius. That's in Kericho. Let's come to the mountain region and we take a look at Meru. Meru, yes, chances of rain also quite high for the entire afternoon.
So it seems like everywhere in the afternoon it is rainy here in Kenya. So that's 50%, 60%, actually 70% at 5 p.m. So pretty much the same situation, a rainy day throughout the afternoon in Meru as well. From 7 to 11, 17 to 22 degrees is what they will be playing at.
Very rather similar temperature, like in Kericho, highs of 22 degrees Celsius. All right, let's cross over to Mombasa. Take a look at the possibility of holiday weather. 26 degrees Celsius as we speak, feels like 29 degrees.
This looks good, apart from the 2 hours of rain that is expected between midday to 1 in the afternoon, 30 to 40%.
But you can imagine it'll be raining, but it will be like 32 degrees Celsius.
Still a blessing.
Yes, so you won't even feel the rain.
You won't feel it.
So yes, holiday weather, sunny intervals for the better part of the day in Mombasa. And finally, let's come back to Nairobi. Wanasema kulikuwa kunanyesha.
Yep, 17 degrees. Still feels like 17 degrees. Rain likely around 4 p.m. That's what they're saying. That's the situation here in Nairobi. Aside from that, we'll be seeing a pretty nice day, cloudy, sunny day until 2 p.m. And then after which, 3 p.m. onwards, expect the rain. So yeah, 6 p.m., 70% chance of raining in Nairobi.
Highs of 25 degrees Celsius. So, and that's exactly the same time the rains will be starting. So ukisikia tu jua imewaka moto sana, ujue saa hiyo, it's just about to rain.
Remove that umbrella.
That's what they say. Unajua hii jua ni ya mvua.
Yeah, jua ya mvua. Correct.
That's the weather situation, and we'll be back probably later on to take a look at whether or not it will have changed. Traffic before we get into the papers in Nairobi. And hapa tunaangalia hapi, naona tunaangalia Karioko Market. So this is, okay, closer to Jogoo Road. Jogoo Road is building up nicely, and you can see this entire stretch of red all the way from the Buruburu Junction all the way to Makadara, opposite the law courts. as you head towards that St. Stephen's Jogoo Road roundabout, a very long stretch of red, which is longer than usual. So it means that traffic is unusually slow on that section of the road. After that, at around that, what do you call it, this roundabout that heads towards Isli, there's also a bit of a snarl up there as vehicles try to join the main highway towards town. Yes, it's also building up around City Stadium roundabout. After that, as you get into town, traffic is building up slowly around Haile Selassie Avenue, areas around Easy Coach, Marikiti Pale, the roundabout between Landis Road and Haile Selassie Avenue. Other areas that have traffic include this roundabout at Haile Selassie and Uhuru Highway, where we have the new, what do you call this, expressway exit.
Yes.
So there's a bit of traffic there as well. The expressway is a bit busy today. You can see patches of red and yellow all the way on from Next Gen Mall towards town. So it's a bit busy, but I think it's still the best bet for anyone coming from Mombasa Road towards town. Langata Road looking good, Mbagathi Way as well. Ngong Road, the usual trouble points, Prestige Plaza, T-Junction there, and Adams Arcade, but otherwise nothing much. Wayaki Way, nothing much to report about. Ukumbuke shule zilifungwa, so there's nothing much there. Tuangalia the usual trouble spot pale Pangani interchange. It's looking much better today.
Yep. Just a small stretch there of red.
If you're still hoping to get into town and coming from direction of Kiambu Road or Thika Road, right now you can enjoy some green, which is good, at around the Pangani interchange, but this will be building up slowly as time goes by. So yes, just before we get to the papers, I promised to tell you which papers will be on today for the KCSE. It's only 3 days left to the end of the KCSE exams 2024. So today, Geography Paper 2 at 8 a.m. and later in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Physics Paper 2. Yes, so leo ni ile siku. Lakini wengi wanaanza kufunga mashule sababu most of these papers in the final week are optional papers.
Yes, so it's going to be a holiday, a long holiday.
Yes, so let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. Alright, Taifa Leo, kanisa la kataa vya haramu. Asema Rais William Ruto anakabiliwa na upinzani mkali kutoka kwa viongozi wa kidini hivi kwamba sadaka yake inakataliwa, huku akikosolewa vikali na waliomuunga mkono wakati wa kampeni za mwaka 2022. Because what they're saying, these are the same people who supported the president. The church was so vocal in support of the president. At some point they were even saying this government is a government of God, you know?
So why are they refusing?
Now everything has changed, and these are his biggest critics. What does this mean? And the main question is, people asking, has the church finally gotten back its voice? During the days when we had the agitation for multi-party democracy back in the late 90s,
Right.
the church was very vocal against President Daniel Moi's actions.
Okay.
Other quick highlights, vidokezo zaidi kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa Taifa Leo pale chini. Ndio siku zuri lakini tutafaulu, anasema Rais Ruto. Rais Ruto ameungama hali nchini ni mbaya huku raia wakipitia hali ngumu kiuchumi. So alikubali kiasi. Ndio nakubali, hata mimi najua kiasi tu, si kubaya sana. Mbadi akaidi Raila kuhusu pesa akaunti. Awataka magavana kukubali mgao wa mapato wa bilioni 380 na sio bilioni 400. So there's still contention of that 20 billion shillings. Upinzani washinda Somaliland, that's another interesting story there. Pale juu masuala ya siasa bado. Sibanduki siasa, asema Waiguru. Gavana asema lenga juu baada ya kuondoka uongozi wa county. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa pili. Gazeti hili ni Taifa Leo.
Right now on the People Daily News that moves you, how president's failed promises are haunting him. That's on page 3. On page 4, clergy say donations contravened fundraising law and was actually a way of buying power, and why bishops have rejected Ruto cash. So that's the top story right there. That is on People Daily. At the top, Gachagua purge claims first casualty. That's on page 5.
Yes, we've been talking about this, and meaning that quite a number of MPs and senators who support Gachagua are being ousted from their positions in very crucial parliamentary committees.
Yes.
And one senator was removed from the Parliamentary Service Committee last week. Na akasema ni sababu hiyo tu Meanwhile, the 300 people who were working in the DP's office have been
Yes.
sent dismissal messages finally.
Ooh.
Remember at one time we received SMSs somewhere?
Yeah.
They've received those SMSs.
Seems a bit too familiar.
Yes.
All right, on the Standard, as you can see, no holds barred. Nairobi Archbishop Philip Anyolo's rejection of more than 5 million shillings President William Ruto donated to the Soweto Catholic Church did not surprise those who actually know him. He once rejected a 4 million shilling car gift from Ruto because he did not know the motive. Of course, this is back then when he was deputy president. His smile and calm nature, that is the Archbishop's smile and calm nature, hide the character of a tough cleric guided by principles, page 4 to 5.
Consistency, they call it.
Yes.
So back in 2019, alipewa Prado, 4 million shillings.
Yes.
Mpya, pap!
At least
By the then
Qatar.
deputy president, akasema,
Nope.
Why?
No,
Why are you
thank
giving
you.
me this car? Please donate it to any other organization. I'm sure they need
What
it.
is the
Mimi-
reason?
Mimi
What is
niko-
the motive?
niko tu sawa.
Yes.
So it's not that he's doing something funny. He's done it before.
Yeah.
Other quick highlights on the front page of the Standard.
So, Ruto to cabinet, deliver or pack your bags. President William Ruto yesterday warned ineffective members of his cabinet, that is, that should they fail to actually meet expectations of Kenyans, they need to pack their bags. And that's what happened yesterday. Apart from that, amend tax bill to tame living cost. Kenyans voiced their reservations on the bill during public participation. They asked MPs to lower taxes that will help reduce cost of living amid concern of high taxation that is spiraling out of control. That is on page 6.
Right, and there's this highlight there on the front page of the Standard. Learners stare at bleak future as strike rages on. They're talking about the lecturers.
The lecturer strike, yes.
So the university, if actually you look at it, it's actually in a crisis. More University has been shut down. We don't
Yes.
know whether or not it will ever come back as a proper
It's actually
university.
been more than a month.
Yes.
A cousin of mine is in med school at Nairobi University, and she's been home for almost 6 weeks now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Plus, I remember, as far as More University is concerned, they even actually sent letters to some of the students,
Yes.
telling them that they will have to find them spaces or slots in other universities. Imagine you being in the third year at university, and then you're told, now we'll have to transfer you to a different university.
That makes no sense. Almost 2 to 3 years of your life wasted, just like that.
I tell you. So it's still a crisis. Meanwhile, state promises 21,000 new overseas jobs. Yes, because you can't go to university either way. You don't have proper education, but we'll send you outside to go work.
We'll fix your life. Just
Only-
go out.
only
Leave
one
Kenya. Things fall apart. Daily Nation. So similarly, we saw in the other page that is in the Standard, things that were a crisis because we did see that there was a crisis with lecturers. Similarly, this is exactly what they're talking about. University stalemate. Lecturer strike hits learning amid future. That is, I can't see that word there.
You use the physical paper. It's much better.
All right. So, university stalemate, lecturers strike hits learning amid furor over new funding model. And the main concern is that salaries are not being paid on time. And that's something that they are protesting over. So what will happen? Will this be a situation that will be sorted out? Well, only time will tell, because as of now, education in universities is in limbo as lecturers are still on strike.
Now, you'll realize that this headline mirrors exactly what the Catholic bishops are talking about.
Yes.
These are the issues Kenyans are talking about. Healthcare, university stalemate, county cash crisis. It's the same thing they're talking about over and over. Yet the president keeps insisting, no, tuko sawa tu. Hakuna. In fact, yesterday, during the signing of what do you call them, performance contracts by PSs and
Yes.
CSs, the president actually referred to his critics as enemies of Kenya.
Wow.
Yes, interesting. So just over 2 years into his tenure, President Ruto is confronted with major crisis affecting key sectors. Things fall apart is a headline there.
Of course, we do know that the SHA teething problems continue, and that is almost 2 months after rollout. Patients are still being stranded in hospitals, not getting treatment. And what is the way forward? How long before these patients actually have some sort of fix with regards to the SHIF and the SHA teething issues, which, by the way, teething is in quotes.
Yes. Meno imekataa kumea. This story we're talking about here, More University inside multi-million shilling deals that anti-graft agencies is investigating. The ESCC is actually investigating allegations of graft within the More University, and one wonders if at all this has been happening.
Yes.
Why is the ESCC coming out just now when things have already fallen apart? Okay, fine, I've used that line. Things fall apart. Things are already bad now.
Yes. Yes.
This is when you're coming in. Surely, where were you? What were you doing for a university to collapse or to get to this level?
And you've actually mentioned
Someone
that
must
they've
have
sent messages to their students, More University, right?
Yes.
That they need to find alternative universities.
They are told we will transfer. You know, like in
transfer
primary
you.
school, the way we would transfer from one school to another. Now they're
But
doing
that's a
that at
promise that
university
we
level.
still don't know
It's unheard of.
if it's actually going to actualize.
Anyway, Ruto reads a riot act to his ministers and PSs. Yes, this was yesterday during the signing of performance contracts. But does it really matter? Even the last cabinet that was declared incompetent,
Yes.
they had signed performance contracts. A lot of them came back. Are they performing? All these key sectors
Imperative
are
question
falling
right there,
apart,
that you could actually have with your guests.
and you're signing performance contracts. By the way, do you know the name of the CS for health? What about education? Okay. Yesterday they signed performance contracts. That's a
They
Daily
need to be
Nation.
educated. I know things about relationships.
Many people don't know their names.
Yes.
On the Star, the good, the bad, the ugly at parastatals, and we struggle to find positive headlines in our local dailies.
Yes.
That's a big one on the front page of the
No room for excuses, Ruto warns ministers. And President William Ruto has handed over copies of ministerial performance contracts for the financial year 2024-2025 to Mining Blue Economy. And of course, the Maritime Affairs CS Hassan Joe, who by the way I know. And
Yeah,
there
that
she
one you
is,
know.
that I know, that very well. And CS Dr. Deborah Barasa.
Now you
at
know who's the
State
CS
House.
for
Now
health.
I know, Dr. Deborah Barasa.
Yes. And many say, if at all they sign performance contracts, then there should be consequences when there's crisis in your
Yes.
sector. Education, health, and you're still a CS. Anyway, probably we're too hard on them.
Up there, many homeless as government demolishes houses in Woodley Estate. And that is on page 2, actually. The reason for this particular story, by the way, is because they're making way for modern high-rises. That is on page 42. 43 houses in Woodley have actually been demolished. Families have been left homeless. And this is to make way for the
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Finally, matters business. Homes charges overtake banks in treasury bill holdings. We do have a physical paper. I can't read a lot on that. They say that a segment of investors, including households, NGOs, and churches, have for the first time overtaken banks on holdings of treasury bills, riding on higher returns and changes that allowed purchase of government paper via mobile phones. Interesting. NYS scam suspect fails to reverse seizure of 35 million shillings. Who is this? Who is this? James Thoitan Derito claimed he had submitted on new evidence while moving office and which was not available. So this case continues. You remember
Right.
the NYS scam?
Yes.
Back when President Uhuru Kenyatta was still president. It still features in our dailies today.
Okay.
Aha.
That-
Treasury rules out extra 20 billion shillings for counties. This is a big bone of contention.
And that's the reason why we are having the current county crisis, because of the same figure, 20 billion shillings that have been ruled out for counties.
Plus even the
by
ones that they've
Treasury.
approved, they're yet to
Yeah.
release. All right, so
The
those are the dailies.
380.
Yes. So let's now take a look at the cartoons. And yes, this is a cartoon on the Standard, and I told you that this story will definitely feature.
Samahani ndugu, hii sio athletics ama ile siasa yenu ya kizungu mingi.
Yeah. So we've already been left by the bus. This bus heading towards Morocco 2025 has two people. This
Uganda and
this
Tanzania?
Tanzania Taifa Stars
And that's
and the Ugandan Cranes.
And our Kenyan
Harambee
Harambee Stars
Stars.
are right there on the floor.
Walibwagwa mahali kuna potholes. Huko kwenyu kuna potholes.
Quite literally on the floor.
Ambia they're making fun for at us. Jirani hajui, jirani anajua tu kutoka mbio. Nasema samahani ndugu, hii sio athletics ama ile siasa yenu ya kizungu mingi. Hapo amekuja sana bana. Anyway, the Daily
shift.
Nation.
Of course, right there we do see our president climbing a ladder, and that's a shift, and that's the...
You see, they're playing with the letters
Yes.
here. So there's an N,
N.
which is in the NHIF. Then there's SHIF,
And
but then there's SHA.
SHA.
So you see, the way people say, we don't know if it's SHIF or SHA or SHE. Or
It's still a confusion right there. Everything's a puzzle.
Yes.
Mixed up.
The confusion and mess that is a transition from NHIF to, is it SHIF or SHA?
SHA.
One of those.
Shift stroke SHA.
Yeah.
All right, this is the story that has been making headlines about, the clergy and how they are currently refusing any sort of sponsorships or donations, rather. And that is a photo of.
There's a caricature of clergy actually jumping off from the pocket of a politician where there's money. So this one has already jumped out. There's another who's being pulled out or saying, hey, I'm with you, I'm with you. He's coming out as well. So they've been enjoying a lot of this money from the state. Now they're saying, sio sisi, that's a star. Sio sisi tumesema ni katuni ya star. Finally, on the People Daily.
You are washing away my shadow.
So this gentleman here is wiping off sympathizers of the deputy president. They're talking about the purge in Parliament and in the deputy president's office of sympathizers and those who used to work for the deputy president.
Do you know what this is?
That's a mousetrap.
Yes.
So probably this should be blood.
It is.
So there's,
but it's black.
Yes. So it's a shadow, a bloody shadow.
Yep.
So yes, there's a cleanup of anyone who looks like he supported the deputy president.
And who's doing the cleanup?
This gentleman. Do we know his name? No, this one. That's a cartoon. So we'll be looking at some of these stories and highlights, which are all in the dailies, with my panelists Stephen Monania, Deputy Governor Muranga, Joshua Kipto, Advocate of the High Court, and who also served at one time as Speaker of the County Assembly of Nandi. Professor Fred Ogola, Economic and Governance Expert, will also be in studio for that conversation after the break, so do stand by.
Right, 8 a.m. onwards, we are going to be looking at relationships. Is jealousy healthy in a relationship? So that's going to be coming out. We have counselors in studio who will be talking to us. And then after that, at 9 a.m., we'll be discussing all things food with Chef Mbugwa. Tasty Wednesday is here, and I'm very excited for that, as you can see on your screen. So that's going to be happening from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on TV 47. This is the Morning Cafe Show.
All right, it's exactly 31 minutes past 6. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to
Welcome back and good morning once again. You're watching TV47. This is a Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Ndimuli. Time for us to take a look at the big headlines today. And one of my panelists noted that the headlines look like a lesson in literature. The Daily Nation, things fall apart. The Standard, no holds barred. Those are the main headlines. The Star, the good, the bad and ugly. So it looks like a lesson in English. Meanwhile, kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo anasema kanisa la kataa vya haramu. Habari kuu pale. Why bishops rejected Ruto cash is a big headline on the front page of the People Daily. It is the biggest conversation, the relationship between the church and the state. And we'll start from there. There are also discussions about the funding crisis in counties, and we'll get there as well. As we're anticipating the State of the Nation address tomorrow by the President before a joint seating of the Houses of Parliament. So what exactly will he be talking about? Will it be more of the same? But we'll get to that. For now, allow me to introduce my panelists. Stephen Monania, Deputy Governor, Murang'a County. It's a pleasure to have you, sir, in studio. Karibu sana.
Thank you, thank you.
Professor Fred Ogola also makes it to studio today, economic and governance expert. Karibu sana, TV47.
Thank you very much, Fred.
Gentlemen, let's take a look at what has been happening for the past 1 week. The relationship between the church and the Kenya Kwanza administration appears to have taken a turn that has left many people surprised. And this is what features on all the front pages. They talk about this bishop who, the Catholic Church rejecting President William Ruto's donations. And this is not the first time. Apparently, the same bishop is the same one who rejected that 4 million shilling car that he had been given, had been donated to him by the then Deputy President in 2019, William Ruto. So it would appear that things are changing. We've seen the kind of relationship the Kenya Kwanza administration had with the church, or with different sections of the church when they came in. And the sentiments back then, everything was being conducted inside church. It drew a lot of criticism, the kind of money coming from the president to the church and that kind of relationship. So is it a turning point, when a Deputy Governor, for the politics of Kenya when we see the church now changing tune?
Thank you very much. I would like to begin by saying hi to all our viewers, and especially my constituents from Murang'a County. They have given us the very specific mandate to serve them accordance to what we did promise them. I think what we are seeing currently in our political atmosphere is the independence of not only institutions but individual power within how they are exercised within the political process. And I have to laud the bishop because he has remained to be a person of his word, a man of his word, because this is not new to this bishop. And I also want to also comment that within this political atmosphere, those who hold political office also need to be very consistent on the issues that we stand for. And that consistency can also can be a way to try and encompass the issues that are in society for that consistency. For example, you remember after the Gen Z movement and the demonstrations that were here after the finance bill, the executive or the national government had some measures that they had put in place, one of them being no harambes in churches and no contributions in all those harambes for all politicians across the country, or all other civil servants. We need to be true to our word. And I think the bishop here held the president to his word because he also quoted, he did not quote church law, he did not quote scripture, he quoted the law, which means that he is standing in for the gaps that do exist. Sometimes we need to take action on the issues that matter to us and where we see fit, because he cannot change the whole country, but he can control the area in which he has jurisdiction. And that's the pulpit where he serves.
Okay.
And I think that he has done in accordance to what he believes, and he has stood to his principles.
And as you rightly put it, the clergy say the donations contravene fundraising law.
Yes.
And was a way of buying power. Professor,
yes.
We've seen how the church has played or has related with different administrations way back from the Moi days, when the church was very vocal, especially in the clamor for multi-party democracy, and what role they played, how it changed with the Kibaki administration, with the Uhuru administration, how the church was criticized of having an unholy alliance with the Kenya Kwanza administration. Now we are seeing a change, and it's just 2 years, we're not even mid-term. Could we be right to say that the church has found its voice again, more than, is it 25 years later?
Yeah, first of all, let's put context to the text. In the first time in the history of Kenya, a sitting president has taken just 2 years to achieve what Moi almost achieved for 24 years. You know, Moi is the only president that had this problem with the church, leading to the coup that took place in 1982. It is with Kibaki it was not that bad. With Uhuru it was not that. Uhuru remained a Catholic. Kibaki remained a Catholic. But now Ruto has actually done what failed. You know, the first president was Kenyatta. He was a Catholic, isn't it? The second president was Moi. He was a AIC. Now we are finding the third president who was a Kibaki. Fourth, also Catholic. Now we are having the second non-Catholic president. And actually you find that what has happened now took Moi long years ago. But let me tell you that what the church is doing, it's nothing new. If you go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1-6, shows the vanity of vanity. Nothing is new. The church has always had challenges with the state. Look at what happened in England that broke away the Catholic and formed the Church of England, which is Anglican Church. Because when King Henry wanted to marry a second wife, the Catholic Church told them, you cannot. He invited a bishop to preside over the wedding, and the bishop says, no way. So he formed his own church to get his own bishop to be able to preside over his own wedding. So I think the Catholic Church has been one of the most consistent, one of the most stable, but also one of the most wealthiest institutions in the world. Catholic Church is the single most stable and the most wealthy institution in the world.
They cannot be bought by money.
They cannot be bought by money. But also, that's not just money, but values. But also what the Catholic Church has done has brought the spirit of ecumenism. Remember, the Catholic Church believes strongly in the spirit of ecumenism. So when they made their pronouncement, you saw Anglican Church coming in, you saw PCA Church coming in, and so many churches coming in. One of the bishops of the Anglican Church told me they would not step back when they feel the Christ is under attack, the spirit, the moral values, there's a moral decay. And the Catholic Church made pronouncements which are not in serious disagreement with what they believe in. But I also want to tell you what is happening at the moment. When you saw Lutheran Church coming to support the Catholic Church did something that made the fall off between the Catholic Church and other churches in history. Remember, there's something called sin of indulgence. Sin of indulgence used to happen in Rome, whereby the Catholic leaders used to receive donation from prostitutes so that they can be given absolution, so that sins can be forgiven. So you could be going to prostitute, and they knew that you're a prostitute, but because you come and throw money in church, it was there. Remember, even the prostitute who was trying to put oil in Jesus' feet. So these are not new things. They have been there time immemorial. But the only thing is that whenever time comes whenever the stakes are high, the church has always found the instrument to overcome it. And this one was very clear. And I want to give the foundation of this, why I tell you this is not something new. When I was in class 6 in 1993, John Paul II wrote a book encyclical called Veritatis Splendor, which means the beauty of the truth. And the encyclical begins by saying, they will know the truth, and the truth shall set them free. That's on that basis that the bishop said, stop lying, because there's a moral decay. When there's a moral decay, the church has to come in to rectify, because this is not about state issues anymore. When political leaders are not saying the truth all the time, Fred, remember that when I was growing up, when you watch TV, we used to listen to President Moi's Swahili to use it to answer questions in a Swahili exam. That's how important political leaders are. I don't know whether when you say, some people talk the way Moi used to talk. Some people took his accent because there was no any other book to read in Swahili. There was no media nowadays. Kids can go to YouTube, they can go to TikTok to listen to typical English and Swahili. So our leaders are actually a reflection of what we become. So when they say moral decay, they say they have to come in and correct the moral decay, and they just said, stop lying. And what I'm trying to say, the bishops asked something very simple. Stop lying. You don't need to put up a budget of 400 billion shillings. Just stop lying. They have not said build expressway. They have not said build a hospital, build a school. Stop lying. So going to give them money, it is not helpful, because if you look at that money they are being given to those people, please to build a house, yet Moi University is not working. Kids can't go to school. People go to hospital, they cannot get health care. So where is the priority of the president? He should go to Moi University, not going to church to throw money. Then come to church to pray, not to malign people, and to use your money, political power, to actually deviate the conversation.
And looking at the reaction from the administration and from the president himself, because this, if you look at the headlines, things fall apart. They're talking about the same things that were listed by the Catholic Church. Issues to do with the university funding model, the health crisis, county cash crisis that we'll talk about, all these things. And they keep on being repeated over and over. Yet listening to the president speaking yesterday seemed to suggest that the critics of the government are enemies of Kenya. It would appear that the reaction by this administration is that we are not the ones lying. You are the one who's misled or misinformed. Do you think that is the right reaction by the president and his people?
I want to come in, Dimuli, from the perspective of governance and being in an area where you're entrusted with the responsibility, just as such of the president. However, I do not envy the decisions that the president has to make on a daily basis, because the decisions that he has to make are based on a variety of factors, some intervening factors that might not be in the face of the public, and they are part of governance, they are part of the political scheme or infrastructure of the country. However, there is something that the president, or rather even the government, and all political leaders where they are, need to also come into context. That for us to have a legitimacy in governance, or rather to be seen, there is a saying that says justice doesn't need to be done, but it has to be seen to be done. The same case with good governance. It does not to be done, it has to be seen to be done. The plans that have been made by the government, and by the way, I do agree on various issues of the president in terms of how he sees things. Because look at an example of SHA and the university funding model. The ideas are profound. They are great. In SHA, you need to have a way as a nation to be able to support each and every member of the country to be able to access healthcare. Those are astute aspirations as a country, and that's a good policy. However, the implementation bit does not require politicization. It does not require talk. It requires action. When we are talking about the university funding model, the process to get there, it requires action. And those actions are what now people are complaining about, because they have been done in a hurriedly manner. And by the way, a critic of any governance structure is not an enemy. Is your best friend. Because he is telling you where things are, where the shoe pains. They are telling you where things are not going well. Because currently, if the people are complaining on the ground that SHA has the mean testing is a little bit higher than the president had promised, then that person is not a critic of the government. That person is advising the government that we promised 300 shillings for every person in this country who cannot afford health insurance, that they are going to be covered with 300 shillings. But then you do mean testing and it's at 600 all the way to 2,000 for a person who cannot afford it. Then that tells you that that person is criticizing that specific aspect, not the entire process. And this is where it's the same formula we use in Murang'a, that before we implement something, we get the opportunity, first of all, to understand, do the necessary public participation. When it gains the favor of the people in those public participation, you roll out. You do not just roll out an entire program. You roll out, you phase it out, you pilot. And I'm going to give you an example of one of the most complicated programs that we did in Murang'a. A school feeding program is one of the most expensive programs that any government can undertake. In Murang'a, when we had in our manifesto that every ECD child has to take a cup of uji at 10 a.m. on a daily basis, We had to put in the process to ensure that that is happening. We have 700 ACD centers. There are no sufficient kitchens. There are no sufficient employee in those institutions. If you do charge, then it becomes more expensive. We had to pilot. You pilot in 4 wards. You take various schools. You take that program there. Learn about the challenges. We learned about the challenges that were there in setting up that feeding program. So that by the time that after 4 months, we understood these are the challenges. This is what we need to do. This is what because people are raising, when we decided to have centralized kitchens and you take uji to ECD centers, some people are saying that is not hygienic. Some people are saying, how can we know that the uji is not going to be tampered along the way? We created measures along that route during piloting, that when we rolled out, nobody had a problem with the program because we had the political issues had been taken care of, the health issues, concerns had been taken care of, the issues of timing, the issues of employability were taken care of. Right now in Murang'a, every child in ECD is taking a cup of uji that is paid for by the county government of Murang'a. And that's the kind of legitimacy that we are talking about, execution of programs even at the national level.
They may look good on paper, but execution is a problem.
They are good, but the execution has to be timed. It has to have a timely manner so that some of these challenges that we are facing in SHA, we should have piloted the mean testing a year ago, because this is not something new that is being done by the government. We knew that this program was coming since we voted this government in. That means the first thing that the Ministry of Health should have done is to take out this tool and go in one, not even an entire county, go in several constituencies across this country, mean test some individuals, see whether they can be able to get to 300 shillings mark. If you're not getting to 300 shillings, then we ask ourselves, this tool, is it important? Can it be used in a national context? Is it going to give us the right results? And so goes to the university funding model. The same case, because they are still using the mean testing tool to know whether you deserve to have full scholarship, you need this kind of help. And you are finding that people who come from very needy backgrounds are not getting the sufficient support that they need. And that's the question of implementation, not the question of policy, the question on implementation.
All right. Time for us to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue with this discussion because we also anticipate the State of the Nation address by the President tomorrow. Will he be coming back simply to defend his brilliant ideas or talking the truth about the lack thereof of the implementation process? You're watching Morning Cafe.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive.
We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side. We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli, continuing looking at the headlines. Today, no holds barred at the Standard, things fall apart the Daily Nation, and wakatavya haramu ni habari kuu pale kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti. I'm still in studio with Deputy Governor of Murang'a, Stephen Munania, and Economic and Governance expert, Professor Fred Ogola. Just before the break, we were talking about the reaction from government.
Yes.
And we continue seeing the president seemingly continuing to defend his actions, even in the face of all this criticism. Yet the problems are so consistent, even without quoting the bishops. The Daily Nation has listed the problems there on the front page. County cash crisis, university stalemate, healthcare mess. It's the same issues the Catholic bishops raised. It's the same issues even the Archbishop of the Anglican Church talked about. Yet the president, in his address yesterday to the CSs and PSs, while they're signing the performance contracts, said that the critics of his administration are enemies of Kenya. And you wonder, is this the kind of response we need from the president at this time?
Fred, it's quite unfortunate that the president needs to do what's called root cause analysis. In Latin, we say causa causarum, the cause of causes. What is the cause of causes? What we are seeing here are causes. Like he says, if you are incompetent, you'll go home. Who appointed them? You know, the person who appointed incompetent people, you know whether they are competent or not. What was the criteria? Was it meritocracy or it was about political expediency? This is very clear. You know, President William Ruto is very different from Kibaki and Moi because Moi had very, very qualified people. In fact, Kibaki's, Kenyatta's cabinet was more educated than Ruto's cabinet. Just go and look at Kenyatta's cabinet. Look at the people who sat there.
Kenyatta 1.
They are Kenyatta 1. Imagine in 1964, we had better qualified people than 2024. how much education have we invested? So the money we are investing in education is being wasted because we should be getting more qualified people. The president should be feeling better because he has someone called professor in the name of a deputy president. What is the value of a professor? When I look at even Kindiki in Embu, when he was trying to preside over the ceremony welcoming the president, he looked worse than the less educated, if you like, by caliber, the so-called Griade Gachagua. So for me, it's clear. But let me explain to you why the president is so bothered and he looks bitter. He needs to take some break from himself, take a retreat, and ask himself some questions. But Moi was able to identify what keeps a president in power. And that's why Moi was in power for 24 years. And there are 5 things that keep people in power. It's called institutional capture. When you become president, you have to capture those institutions very fast. The first one, it is what I call security, because you have to capture the security forces, the police, the military, if you can. The other one I talk about is the church. So you remember that when Moi was going through coup, and I can tell you now the date was August 1st, 1981. He went to Sitam Church to thank them for having helped him to survive the coup. Then the president remembered that before he left office, that was on December 2022, he went back to Sitam to thank them for keeping them in power from 1982 to 2002. So the church is a pillar. So when the church withdraws them, one pillar falls. So one pillar he's still holding is the treasury, which is money. That's one institution. The other one he's still holding on to is the security forces. That one he's holding to. Those are the only 2 one he has. He's lost the church, which is the moral conscience of the society, because the society without a conscience is dead. That's why the bishop said that, look here, the president doesn't seem to have a conscience we can talk to. That's why now they're talking to people, because people are blaming. Why didn't the bishops go to State House and have a round table? The day they went to State House, the round table, to talk to the president, they were told to have gone to collect money. So they are now speaking to people. The message the bishops had was telling people, excuse me, we are not with this kind of moral decay. We have to guide you rightly because we are your moral conscience. So after losing the church, he has lost the social license to operate, which is from the people. By delivering the promises you gave to people on healthcare, on education, on cost of living, on infrastructure, name it, you lose social license. Opinion polls are showing that many people, the people are showing that around 75% of Kenyans are not happy with how things are going. Therefore, he has lost the social license. He's lost now the church, which is a key pillar. So that's the bitterness. He remains the security and the money. So that's why he now took his money to church. Now the money has been returned back to him. So even what is the power of money if it cannot buy people? I remember there's a time when I was doing strategy plan for another company in Spain, when the guy I was working for went to New York and told people, you say with the Visa card you can buy everything. With the Visa card you cannot buy food on my table because his tables were full. You have to book 4 months before. So the church is telling people, yes, you have money and this police, isn't it? But your money cannot buy our favor. Go and take that money to school, go take that money to healthcare, maybe take it where it belongs because we don't need that money. And the president contradicts himself so heavily because during the Gen Z revolution, the president promised us that there is no church donation. And he has done the same thing. So even as we look forward to all these speeches that you are waiting for in the State of the House address, State of the Nation address, are we going to see somebody who has acknowledged that the way we have been taking Kenyans is not the right way? And I can tell you, my brother, I'm a Catholic. We believe in the doctrine. What the bishop says, me, I'm a Catholic. Sometimes we agree even if it does not make sense, because faith is about believing, faith, seeking, and understanding. You first of all believe, then you seek to understand. Okay. When my bishop tells me, Fred, this is a sin, I don't have to start reasoning by looking for dictionaries. I believe it's a sin, then I now seek to understand how is it a sin. So when the bishop said stop lying, we have all believed that there's a lie, so we are trying to seek to understand how they are lying. Okay. So the pronouncement from the church is very powerful, and I can tell the president that the best thing to do, stop answering the church, stop answering critics, answer them with action. For example, if the bishop said that there's so much pending bills, isn't it? Let us see you in State House signing off like 10 billion moving to faith-based hospital, isn't it? Let's see now the issue of Moi University. Let me see the president taking his chopper as a matter of urgency. Rush to Moi University, have a meeting with the board of management, tell the CS, I want this thing up. Let him look like he's sorting out these children, because we are being told. Remember when the court, Gachaga went to court, he was told that the deputy president's lot cannot even wait for a minute. The vacuum is too big, isn't it? I can tell you, we can have some months without a DP like Moi had, without a DP, actually several months, if not years, but the country was functioning. But the kids who can't go to school, now, people who are going to hospital, NHIF, the SHA thing, is causing so much trouble that some people are dying because they cannot get the treatment they want: diabetic, chemotherapy, Linda Mama, a student insurance fund. Those things are so serious that they should be tackled with the same efficiency and speed like we sorted out the deputy president issue.
Yes, and this will be exactly a week after the Catholic bishops came out and said, please stop lying. Then he has the opportunity exactly a week later to make the State of the Nation address before the joint houses of parliament. And of course, this will be beamed live. All Kenyans will be watching. If you look at the papers today, everyone is clear about where the problems lie. We know it is with the health sector mess, education crisis, issues of funding for counties and stuff like that. Everyone is clear. But listening to the president over the last few days, should we expect more of the same, that will come back and to try and defend the indefensible?
Ndimuli, I don't think that the president is defending the indefensible. Because the policy owner of all these policies is the president. I think what we should expect to see is how far have we gone into implementation of this policy. Because like I said, the president has a very sharp mind. And I don't think that is very lost on so many people. He has a very sharp mind in terms of how he thinks about policies. What we need to see is his sharp mind in implementation. Because we have already gone through the process of creating the policies that are there. What now we need to see is the mind in implementation. And the challenge that every person in governance has, whether it's in private sector or even the public sector, is how well do you implement to achieve the results of the promise that you made. And to some extent, I do believe the president when he says that these things are going to work. Because from where I sit, I have seen his actions. I don't know, last year, and I want to tell Professor why I believe the president.
It is 50 days since the rollout of the new health care model.
Yes.
And the president is still talking about teething problems.
Yes,
the teething problems. This is a matter of life and death.
Yes, the teething problems are usually there. And I have to give very valid examples. Why the teething problems are part of implementation. However, like I said before, the implementation of programs needs to be well vetted before the implementation. But we are here. We need to be looking for solution as of now, because there is no going back. And I believe the president when he says there is no going back, there is no going back because we have made the regulations, we have made the policy, we have made the laws, people are contributing into the scheme. There is no going back. Right now is the position where we need to be creating to be looking for solution. And a survey that was done in the previous week on the range of implementation of the healthcare, the social health insurance across the country, it indicated that its implementation is at 45% satisfaction. 45%, just shy of 50%. Below 50%. It's below average. It's 50 days since it began its operation. Some of these issues are internal government processes. Have we trained the people who process this insurance claim. That's an ongoing process, and it will go on as long as the policy is in place. Have we ensured that all facilities are captured? That is an ongoing process. So far, almost 70% of facilities that are government-owned have already been onboarded. The few that are in the private sector and faith-based are still yet to come on board, and we expect that they are going to come on board. The issue that, as of now, and what I would expect to see from the State of the Nation address is basically how far have we reached. And this needs to be a precise endeavor, not a promise of where we need to be. It's a matter of recounting. This is where we have come from in 55 days. This is what we have achieved after the implementation of this policy. I would expect so that he also gives, because part of the challenges that are there is on issue of pending bills, for example, that of that were left by NHIF as we move to SHA. Right now, our county is old, Murang'a County is old almost 40 million in terms of the insurance package that we had with them on Kang'ata Care. We have 40 million in that. We have other faith-based organizations that have pending bills there. We would want to see in the State of the Nation address how this money is going to be paid out. We would also want to see in the address, how is he sorting out the issue of mean testing and the people who cannot afford, who are getting over and above the 300 shillings, yet they cannot afford the 300. I'm talking about the practicability. Yes. Because I do believe the president has had the opportunity to get this information, because the survey that I'm talking about was done last week. That means the data is available and it's there. And if you look at that, it has given on various, I think, almost 15 parameters on implementation. And I want to agree, because the president is in a very unique position. We are not far into the administration that all these things cannot be sorted out, because we are not in the last days of administration. We are just beginning out. And I believe that with proper implementation, the president has a fighting chance.
Yet the president keeps on insisting on this idealistic view about his promises and where he's supposed to take us, almost turning philosophical. It's about the dream. We need more than just a dream at this point, Professor. This is the opportunity the president has tomorrow to speak to the nation. Will he simply be selling a dream again?
First of all, allow me a chance to disagree with my brother. I have visited you in Murang'a County. You know me very well. Yeah. Remember, we came there.
Yeah.
You are a friend, but they say, dear to me is a friend, dearer is the truth. So the truth should be dearer to all of us. And I think that's what the bishops are saying. Dear to us is our president, but dearer still is the truth, because the truth shall set both of us and all of us free. If you say the president intelligent, no one disagrees with that, because we have not had any public intelligence test to test his IQ. I'm not saying we have not done that. So that one we put aside. What my mother in the village and my grandmother want to see, the intelligence into how do you offer healthcare, isn't it? How do you offer education? You are intelligent, Deputy Governor. But if those people could not get that school feeding program, they could not see your intelligence. Fred, we have not tested your IQ, but the way you do news here makes us want to watch the news. I was a professor in Strathmore. I was an academic director there. I used to have problems. There are some professors with very high IQs. They have published great books. When they go to class, students tell them, we don't even know whether you have a PhD. The way you are talking to us, we cannot consume it. What they want to do is that when you teach a student today, and they're going to work tomorrow, is there something they can pick and put into their daily management decisions to improve organizations? So we say virtue should be translated into action. Jesus didn't tell us how virtuous he was. Actually, he didn't tell us he was son. He told his son of man. But actually, his action showed he was son of God. So let us not start saying people are so and so intelligent. As I told you, the most qualified person in government is a Professor Kindiki, isn't it? Followed by the president. That one in terms of the CV we see in the public, isn't it? How they are qualified, we don't know. Sometimes how they talk, I wonder whether there's a professor of law or something, but that's a question another day. What we are focusing here is, do you use your intelligence for the country, or use your intelligence against the country? Because people can use their intelligence to get wealthy, Because if you get a president who is a financial engineer, he can become so wealthy and everyone becomes so poor. So the questions are, does the intelligence, the qualification, the competence you claim to have translate into the lives of the people that we have? And that's, for me, what is important. I never introduce myself, oh, I'm a professor, so and so. For me, when I go to class, you have to see what is the action that is being taken. So then let me take you to the question you asked, whether the president will still go to tell us in action. Fred, the State of the Nation address is a constitutional requirement in Article 9 of the Constitution, and the president is in a very difficult situation because this is not just a joke. The State of the Nation should be, the president should tell us how he has put in measures in place to keep the national values. The national values are in Chapter 6, isn't it? And it is not that you should just come and give the speech that you have written by anybody else. So if there was a government spokesperson, or for example, if there's someone writing his communication, it is listed what to talk about. How have you managed the issue of the county government? How have you ensured the counties are functioning? That's one of the things he has to talk about tomorrow. A framework for state-owned farms, that is the parastatals. He has to address how are they now, isn't it? So when the counties are saying they have not received money, they are going to strike in 30 days, and you should talk about it tomorrow. How are you going to say you have given the money? If you are not given the money, you are lying, isn't it? The bishops have said, stop lying. So the president is at a crossroad. These things are very clear. How do you improve the capacity of the government to do their work? For example, over-reliance on transfer of national government. So these are key issues. Ensure shareable revenue is to everybody. Like now, the pending bills have not been paid, isn't it? Now, the transfer of funds, those are the issues that should be discussed. It's not just like you tell us, for me, we are in Kenya Kwanza. No, these are constitutional requirements. And this State of the Nation address is submitted in Parliament to check for compliance. Mm-hmm. Now, the previous State of the Nation address, I read it. I was live on television, so I reviewed it. If you look at the State of the Nation address by the president last time, it did not meet the threshold of what should be a constitutional State of the Nation address. If a bishop was supposed to come and say Mass here, and he forgets to transfer the bread and the wine into the body and blood of Christ, there's no Mass. So we cannot just saying that it's not a ritual that we are doing. It must be something. So the president has to just talk about how he has managed the counties, healthcare system, education, more universities collapsing. So he has to look for what measures has he put, for example, where were we in the last State of the Nation address? What progress have we made? Then he tells us what measures he's putting in place to fast track this, which means now the next State of the Nation address will be looking, you told us you put on these measures in place, for example, SHA shift, where are we? Have we addressed it? So you tell us, okay, I'm appointing a commission, or for example, I am overhauling the whole system, so we shall check next year again to check, did you really do what you're supposed to do? So this is not a joke, and this is a legal document submitted to a National Assembly for debate. And I think the president needs to listen to this carefully, because again, if he doesn't, he should not just go and rap, because he must start lecturing Kenyans. Don't lecture us, because you are the person we elected. It's like the employee is reporting to the employer, you gave me a job, I have reached here. But don't come to lecture us on your ideology. For us, we want to see how many transitions are taking place from primary school to secondary school, university. Unemployment is a national security issue. Employment being created, isn't it? Corruption being fought. How are we living Article 6 of the Constitution? Those are the things that matter.
Okay.
But if they are not addressed in tomorrow's State of the Nation address, again it will fall short for the third time.
Okay, and now this takes us to the issue of counties, because it is listed there, that this is among the things they should report, the state of devolution as well. Page 6 of the Daily Nation talks about Treasury ruling out extra 20 billion shillings for counties. We even saw the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga talking about this last week and urging that MPs should not try to take over what should be the job of counties. On page 4 of the Standard, we have this headline at the bottom there, stop lying. Again, lies. Stop lying about county disbursements. Governors tell Mbadi. So controversy over disbursement of county allocations has deepened, with the Council of Governors dismissing claims by Treasury CS John Mbadi that all their dues have been released. So now it would appear the accusations of lying are just even beyond the president. We're seeing even the CSs. Now, when it comes to devolution, because I know this is very close to you, we've had claims by the COG chair that counties in a number of days will be shutting down because there's not been proper disbursement. This is 14 years after the advent of devolution. What do you expect the president to say tomorrow?
I think when you look at devolution, and let me go back to the beginning of devolution in the 2010 constitution after it began implementation even before 2013, because the implementation of the constitution was immediate. The framers of the 2010 constitution, and I know Professor is going to agree with me that all these, the two structures of government, the national and the counties, and the implementation of the devolved function was to be implemented in good faith. Therefore, the transfer of functions that were supposed to be national government into the devolved function was supposed to be done in good faith. Therefore, if you transfer a function, let the resources of that function follow to the counties. Something that happened during that implementation and still hasn't happened was on some of the issues that were being costing of functions so that the adequate resources were to follow. That hasn't happened 100% until now. We would want to see the president speak to that, because there are still functions that belongs to the county. I'm going to give an example of one of such functions is the cooperatives. Cooperatives are devolved function. In my county, for example, we have all cooperative officers who work in, day out to service the 490 cooperatives in Murang'a. These are agricultural cooperatives that are doing milk, that are doing boda, that are doing this. They are doing agriculture at the local level. They are trying to manage. So we have 490. But all the services rendered to those by the county government to those cooperatives, all the resources collected from those, whether it's certificates, whether it's audits, or all the resources that those cooperatives pay, go straight to Nairobi and not to the county that services those cooperatives. That gives the county, their hand is held back on some of making those decisions, because then why wouldn't then the commissioner of cooperatives at Nairobi have the responsibility that he needs if the resources are flowing to him? And those are the questions that we are asking ourselves in such cases. I would also want to see Treasury being mentioned in the state of address in the timeliness of disbursement of county funds. Why? Because the disbursement is not a matter of negotiation, it's prescribed by the same constitution and by PFM Act that on every 15th of every month, every county shall receive its shareable share, the equitable share. But right now what we have is the national government is receiving its equitable share, but the counties have 3 months in arrears.
Are you confirming that what Council of Governor Finance Committee Chairperson Fernandes Barasa is saying, that CS Mbadi is lying? Have you in Murang'a received the equitable share
you see,
that you're supposed to have received by now?
They may have released it, but...
Have you received it?
But I haven't seen the communication as of yet.
So
maybe it will, by the time I get to office, maybe it is.
But as it is right now, to your knowledge,
but
as Deputy Governor,
now, right now, I haven't seen the communication stating that our accounts have the funds. But what I'm speaking to is, it's not a matter of this immediate issue. It's a matter of practice. It's a matter of adhering to the law and the regulations and the constitution that we have as a country. That then this shareable share should be received on every 15th. And I think even in the previous administration, the current administration, this has been a teething issue. When do these funds? Because if the national government employees who work the same government, because we say we are 47 governments, one nation, how can one employee of the government receive their pay before the end of the month, yet the other employee is receiving last month's pay after 2 months? It's a question of how do we prioritize when we have money. And I do agree that Treasury has a very big task in trying to administer the monies that we collect. Largely, they are not enough. It's not that the total amount is together. It comes as it's being collected. But when it gets to the table, how do we prioritize this? In some extent, I usually see, because when we do have money, then there is no priority when it comes to disperse. And the reason why I'm talking so strongly about this is because county governments are service counties. Because we are providing service. And the example is, we talk about healthcare implementation. The counties are the ones that are paying the doctors. They're the ones that are paying the nurses. They're the ones that are paying the clinical officers. We are the ones paying the cooperative officers who service farmers. We are the ones who are paying the veterinaries. We are the ones who are in charge of the ECD teachers. We are paying them. If we do not have the services, we do not have the money to pay our employees, they are not motivated to go to work.
Yes, Professor.
So first of all, Bwana Deputy Governor, you are very right on that. But I want to tell you that this is not guesswork. Government cannot be run in guesswork. What I'm trying to say is that the drafters of the Constitution and even the governance policies and manuals are very clear on this matter. I want to say that I've been telling Mr. President that do not start guessing stuff. How you should work is very clear in the Constitution of Kenya, the policies of Kenya and laws of Kenya. If you just read them, you don't need these very many advisors, I don't know what, economic council, they should be disbanded, they go home, because without that one, some governments have operated. Did Kibaki have an economic council? No, there was social and economic council that was working on Vision 2030. But let me put the thing into perspective. There seems to be a cash crisis, and the cash crisis is coming from the point of view that either there's too much corruption or people are putting money on non-priorities. Fred, you always go to Parliament. I've seen you doing very good analysis about the budget. Do you know that in the budget policy statement, there's what they call fast charge? Fast charge is that immediately money is collected, so there's no guesswork about priorities. Yeah. Immediately money is collected, the constitution is very clear, pay pending bills fast. Because fast charge, because these are bills of last year and they are pending, clear them. That is the Constitution that says it. It's actually in the, every CS must read that in the budget policy statement. Now, we're having over 900 billion pending bills not paid, isn't it? Why should we be having pending bills at the same time we are borrowing? You know, you can either have only pending bills and you have no debt. You cannot be having, you are over borrowing and you're having pending, there must be stealing. Because what does it mean? People offer their services to you and you haven't paid because you don't have money, but you don't borrow. But if you're borrowing money, at the same time there is huge pending bill, means that they are not following the Constitution of Kenya and policies of Kenya how to do this. Fred, I want to tell you this, that maybe, let's give an example. This may not be a good example. You are a man. When you receive your first salary, the first budget nakwanga budget ya bibi. The wife has given you a budget on the table. If you don't clear it, you'll have problems. They start looking at your phone or where money has gone because you have earned your salary. Why am I not receiving mine? So the first charge for a man is give your wife, if it's, for example, 100,000 shillings for the shopping, to buy things for the kids and everything else. The second one now goes to other things, isn't it? You cannot start giving Pango a kind of money if you have not given the first charge, isn't it? You are going to charge to give donation where they are not needed, but the first charge has not been paid. Your house will crumble. That's why the presidency, things fall apart, means you took the first charge to the fourth charge or the last charge. If you took the first charge where it belongs, counties have been paid, isn't it? Education is working, healthcare is working, now you can take money elsewhere. So it is very clear in the budget what is the first charge. Pending bills, county government, they are the first charge. You have to do that first. Then everything else will follow later. So the budget policy statement is very clear about that. You know, if the county is shut down, president will go down. This is a fact. What am I trying to say? Imagine a situation whereby city mortuary is not working, it's stinking. Until no one around Kenyatta can survive. Do you know what people do? Everyone will go to the street. And they'll go to State House. The president will collapse, isn't it? Imagine you go to Pumwani Hospital and find that your wife is to give birth and there's nowhere she can give birth, isn't it? And this in numbers. People are sick, they are standing outside. They'll start marching to the CBD. You get my point? So the county government is a first charge. So the question is, are we having a crash crisis in the country? where there's a cash crisis in the country, where there's no money to pay them, and we are being told there's money. Mbadi spoke confidently, he has already given the money. Why are we having a deputy governor on set saying, according to him, why he has not received? Who needs to know first that you have received the money? Should the public know that you have been paid the salary first before you know, Fred, that you have been paid the salary? K24 going to TV47 going on live television saying, no, we have paid Fred. But Fred is saying he has not received money. So who is lying to who? So according to me, I'm asking all the government officials, Fred, the Constitution of Kenya is clear. Did you see when Kindiki took oath of office? There's one allegiance, isn't it? The other was due function of the office. It explains to you how you are going to do your work. So a station of the presidency, treasury, judiciary cannot be allowed to do anything in their own guesswork. Okay. There must be personality touch, yes, but there must be a framework to the work. So what these are doing, they are breaking the Constitution of Kenya, they are breaking the laws of Kenya, and they're breaking the policies of Kenya. So as we stand, the government of Kenya is not in compliance with the governance manuals, which is the Constitution, the laws and policies of Kenya.
Well, Deputy Governor, do you think that devolution is receiving the priority it deserves? From your experience the past 2 years, and going forward, if this same working environment continues, what will happen?
I think devolution should be the first priority of the government to ensure that service is driven down to where the people are. And I would like to use an example to show why it's important. Because if they might understand, because some of the scenarios that we are seeing and the politicking that is at the national level is based on the politics between the Senate and the National Assembly, the politics between how people perceive governors, not the institutions that they hold, which are the counties and the service they provide, but rather the governors themselves, and largely because some of them wants the governor seats come 2027. So they want to have governors as cripple as possible and not doing things, so that they can have an easier platform to come to the counties and vie for those positions. However, a devolved functioning right, then you need to have services being rendered at the county level. And this should be a priority of a national government. For example, one of the major, and allow me to use healthcare. And the reason why I'm using healthcare is because it forms one of the largest forms of, in the budget. The Department of Health receives some of the largest funding. Why? Because it needs to provide medicine that is being used by the common mwananchi in all level 2s, level 3s, level 4, level 5s. The county governments provide those services to provide medicine in those hospitals. So when we are talking about its implementation, then this should be a priority. And what I have seen, and I'm glad that Professor has indicated about priorities of a budget. And allow me to use an example of some of the priorities that we have made in Murang'a County and why we thought it was important for us to make those priorities. When we came in the new administration with Dr. Kangata, we understood that if we made the right priorities in the health sector, it would eventually roll out to easier service towards the people and easier access. So we began a process, one, to revolutionize the infrastructure. So we began with ensuring that all level 4 facilities, these are sub-county hospitals, not only have the facility, not only that the structures are there, but if they are not there, we build new ones. So far, we have built a Kenneth Matiba Hospital, an eye and dental specialist hospital. We have completed Kerwara Hospital. We have done Nyakianga, that is complete, that is in Mathioya. We have done Bildad Kagia, which is in Kandara. We have done a new dialysis center in Kegumo. In level 5 hospital, we are adding a brand new wing because we are receiving a lot of pressure from due to the insurance Kangata care that we gave out, and so we need a new wing. And through that priority, we began a second priority in healthcare, digitization, so that you can be able to get easier services. Once we did digitization, then it was easier to establish what we are calling telemedicine in 35 wards, in 35 health facilities. Therefore, the common mwananchi doesn't have to travel to a sub-county hospital or even to the level 5 hospital where there are specialist doctors. The telemedicine doctor seated in Murang'a and seated where we have set them aside, they can be able to serve a person at the ward level. I'm talking about priorities. That priority for us in the county government has given us the opportunity to serve our people with the very minimal resources that we have had. Even along this cash crisis, we have been able to serve the people in that category. And what we would want to see in future is that given that these priorities exist, we are still falling short of 200 nurses across the county. We are still falling short of almost 140 clinical officers. We are still falling short of farm techs. And this is monies that should... So when I see the news here indicate that Treasury rules out extra 20 billion for counties, what I'm looking at is not the 20 billion shillings that are being told to go to the counties. I'm looking at my impossibility of employing new nurses. I'm looking at this, I cannot employ new ECD teachers. Right now I have 1,400 ECD teachers. I need at least 2,000 so that I can adequately man the 700 ECD centers across Murang'a. If the 20 billion means that I cannot employ more, right now every other institution in the national government, and this is the question that I usually ask, some of the ministries in the national government that are devolved should be policy ministries. For example, the Ministry of Agriculture. It should be a policy ministry. But then you see the Ministry of Agriculture at the national level is the one that is distributing fertilizer. That should be the work of the counties. When we see that the national government is paying directly the CHP, directly to CHP, that's the work of the county. Leave it to the county. If the national government want to construct a level 4 hospital, that's the work of the county. If the money exists in the national government to be able to do the work of the county, devolve those funds. Therefore, because what I am looking at are the issues of service delivery. And Mwananchi is not going to understand the level of political meandering that we are going to do at the national level. They want service. Okay. And the reason why you see Kenyans in pain, the church in pain, everybody up in arms in pain, is because they need the services.
Okay. There's the issue of lies vis-a-vis truth. And probably the government is in dire straits right now. There's probably a serious cash crunch that no one is admitting to. But is that a requirement when it comes to the State of the Nation address, that the president needs to tell the country the truth, that yes, mambo ni kubaya?
Yeah, first of all, Fred, I'm sorry to say that there is what is called a lie, but there are some things not qualified to be a lie. The president don't have to tell people about the cash crisis. He doesn't have to. In fact, Fred, I can tell you, as governance expert, there are some things that you should not say. I've been saying the economy is suffering for one main reason, that immediately the president and deputy president took oath of office, they told us we are in a crisis. You know, economy is emotional. You need to breathe some fresh air and hope into the economy. When you cannot invest in a country where the president goes live on television and says we have a cash crisis. Tell me any MD or CEO, forget about the president, go to any bank, because I also want to be fair. I'm not saying whether I like the president or not, but I also have to be truthful, isn't it? Have you seen any CEO who calls a press conference and saying that my company is collapsing in the next few days? So then why do you expect the president to tell me that my country is in a cash crisis? That is not something you should talk about. But the only thing is that also you should not say that we have enough money either. So because truth should be, when you want to say something, say it. And when you say it, you should be honest and truthful. So I'm thinking that that's not a discussion to bring too much in, because investors, for example, in New York, are seeing the front page and seeing things fall apart in Kenya. You want to come invest in Kenya. London, they're looking, things fall apart. One of them, cash crisis in Kenya. And here you're coming to do work in Kenya. JP Morgan wants to come to Kenya. They are looking and saying cash crisis in Kenya. You see, this is not a good news for us. Why should Kenya be shouting about cash crisis? And Kenya is one of the most stable economies in the region. So we need to put fresh air, Fred. Even a man, even if your wife is leaving and people come home, you can't tell them, guys, you're coming and my wife is leaving me. You don't say that. Tell them, oh, very much, thank you very much, you are doing very well. You hug them, isn't it? Sweetheart, prepare some tea. You know she's leaving, but let her prepare tea. Maybe after preparing tea, she can change her mind. So we must give economy a positive vibe. I've been an advocate of giving our economy a positive vibe. Do you know Korea, Japan, Go to their social media. We have young people advising people from other countries, come visit my country. Come and see the monuments. Come and visit this and this. In Kenya, have you seen Kenyans going on Twitter saying, come visit Kenya? Kenya is collapsing. We are dying. Kenya is a crime scene, isn't it? I'm not saying that saying those things are wrong when they are right, isn't it? But I'm looking forward, Fred, one day when we, me and you, will sit here to discuss about the good news in Kenya. But I also know the media also want things which are not very...
Are you blaming the media?
Put aside, the issue we have at the moment, which I wanted to talk to my brother here, is that if you look at how the counties are running, how all these systems are running, there is what I call, when I was Kibaki's advisor, you remember I was President Kibaki's advisor, and maybe you want to agree or not. The day the president was being given a state funeral in Nyayo, I was on live television in KBC from 8 to 4. It's because they called Francis Mudaura to go and talk about Kibaki, the economic strategist. And Kibaki said, no, I know the guy, just call Fred Ogola. So I was on television there with Peter Mudoka, the one who was the former chancellor of Masinde Muliro, for those hours because we knew what was going on in the background. Now, we told Kibaki after launching of the Vision 2030 that this thing is too mouthful, Vision 2030. Can you imagine Vision 2030? How do you start executing? So we came up with a structure called EMDA. If the government can take this thing today, the things won't fall apart. So E is executive order. That's the work of the president. You understand? The president was just supposed to say, I want free health care, and shut up. Now, there's a Minister of Education, isn't it? M is ministerial policies. So the Minister for Education come with ministerial policies that cuts across, like talk about ministry having policies, isn't it? Then EMD department. There's a state department in charge of primary, secondary, and then tertiary, isn't it? So each state department now comes up with their own execution framework on how to execute the ministerial policy of education. Then under the Ministry of Education, there are agencies. Under the department, there's agencies. For example, there's Teacher Service Commission. It's an agency. Now, Teacher Service Commission now comes up with what to do. The president will talk less. So saying president is lying, he will talk less. So lies will be more with other people if they want to lie, isn't it? In this way, things will work seamlessly. For example, when we are doing roads, Kibaki just said, I want 10,000 kilometers of road being built in Kenya. That is the executive order. Now, Ministry of Roads set up the roads board. So the Ministry of Roads came with the policy. Then departments, for example, the ones of urban roads, isn't it, came out with their policy, the execution framework. Then KERA took one, KURA took one, KENHA took another one. Did you hear the president opening too many roads and shouting about roads? There was not much because everything works. So the president has time to think, isn't it? And Fred, I want to tell you this, maybe this is an advice due to our listeners, even to yourself and even my brother. Between a man who makes more decisions and the man who makes fewer, who is more effective? If you ask me, the man who makes fewer decisions is more effective than those who are making too many decisions. There are some decisions you don't need to make. Like, I'm home. My work is to ensure people should be happy and I finance it. Shut up. I should not continue and say, okay, cook sukuma on Tuesday with ugali and omena. Now, we are going into smaller issues that now, my house help will be now the minister at home, telling my house help that today you are going to buy sukuma from Kawangware fresh, isn't it? So that for me, I will, now there are different departments in the house, isn't it? So I should not be like, okay, TV should be switched off in the morning and no. Those are now small issues. There are time kids need to sleep, TV should not be on, isn't it? They have to go to school. Now those policies done with my wife. For example, Fred, I can tell you, if you call your wife on Saturday and call your house and tell her, could you please go and dress the kids, we take them for swimming in Galleria. Your house help will call your wife and check. Baba so-and-so is saying address the kid. Is that true? Because you are making a decision which is not yours. So if we allow this to work, the problem is that everything is now put on William Ruto. I had a conversation you had here with your other co-presenter in the morning when you ask her, do you know the Minister for Health? Do you know why we don't know them? Because they are not working. The President is answering questions in health, in education, in blue economy, in agriculture. But the other ministers, what are they doing? Why do you hire people, you work for them, then you pay them, isn't it?
They were signing performance contracts, yes.
No, but he is the one answering all questions for them. Why is the president answering questions, things are okay? Mbadi should be telling us the state of the economy, isn't it? So I'm saying you cannot keep dogs at home. You buy dogs, you keep them at home, then you are the one barking. let the dog bark for you, isn't it? And for you, your work is to get the right dog, feed the dog.
Okay.
And let the dog bark against what? The enemies.
There are other issues that afflict the country, including politics. There's been a lot of changes, including the impeachment of the deputy president and so many different things. The protests that happened in June by the Gen Zs. The president was forced to fire an entire cabinet. Are these things that we expect to feature in the State of the Nation address, including issues of security? And if at all, what do you expect the president to say tomorrow as we come towards the end of this conversation?
I think the president will be talking about all those issues because some are economic issues and some are security issues. And it's not my place to advise the president on the national security concerns. All we can indicate is that we are seeing a little bit of more pain from the people when we see the high rising cases of femicide. All we can say is that these are things that need to be addressed. That means there is something that requires a little bit more attention to it. When you see young people on the street, it means that the young people feel disenfranchised. It means that something in the economy is not going right. That means we would want to see the president speak towards the economy and especially the opportunities that the government is working on to create for the young people. We would also want to see the issues that on education, because I think by next year the JSS should be up and running, and we hope that part of the conversation would be is what's the plan for building all JSS schools across the county so that our kids can be able to go to school and have the education that they need. And towards that, and I do agree with Professor when he said that having a policy statement and executive order is very important, and how to achieve should be left now to the implementers. And I do believe that even counties should, also counties usually adjust themselves to the policies that the national government makes at the executive level. Because these are issues affecting counties at the ground level. And one of those examples is when we talk about education, I don't think there is any governor who would not want to see more children from their counties go to university, or more secondary schools that are being serviced at the county, whether it's devolved functions or national government or not. It's the aspiration of every leader, whether in the political space, to advocate for their people. And towards that end, I want to provide a context to the president's speech and what we would want to see politically, because there are so many things that are affecting politically. Let the president give the statement on how some of these challenges we are facing, without promising much, but rather having steps or policies to address them. Because I don't think that we need to lecture the DCI on how to do their job. They need to be facilitated to do their job so that they can investigate this crime. I don't think we need to lecture the TSC on how to, or rather even the teachers how to do their job. No, we would want the teachers facilitated for that purpose. We wouldn't want to see governors being lectured on how to govern their counties. They have the responsibility and the mandate given. But we also want to see the county governments facilitated. Because remember, within the counties and also within the constituencies and within the wards, these constituents the constituents, the people who gave us this responsibility, are waiting to see when the president speaks to the state of the nation, what is benefiting me? what is benefiting me. And I want to agree with the professor here that executive order on how we do progress as a policy in this ministry is very important, because it works now towards, because, and let me give an example. When my governor came into power in 2022, we were talking about how bursaries are to be managed as a county, because we had a bursary program that used to support a small number of kids throughout secondary schools, and it used to cost a lot of money. And then the policy that the governor instituted in Murang'a, that we are going to support the children who come from day secondary schools with the bursary policy that we have as a county. That was his policy. Okay. And so every other bursary program that was devised by the Department of Education was based on that promise. That means every child that in Murang'a who goes to university from a day secondary school is supported.
Okay.
That means in the coming year now we are going to the second phase of that implementation, that every child in a day secondary school in Murang'a who is between number 1 and number 10 in Form 2, in Form 3, and in Form 4 is going to study for free for an entire year, okay, between number 1 and number 10. That was a policy so that we can support the day secondary schools at the county. Okay. And that is the spirit to which I want to agree with Professor here, that when a policy is made, Mwananchi tomorrow is not going to be waiting on any more, is going to want to understand, when this is being made, what is it going to have an impact on me?
Okay. Yeah. There are issues around security, the abductions and killings, and people missing. It is an opportunity for the president to also address this thing. There are issues that we say away from economic matters. Do you expect that finally he may provide or shed some light on some of these things?
Yeah, I'm expecting the president to look at transformed one, because the church that is the conscience of the nation has spoken, and they have spoken in absolute truth. I want the president maybe to read John 10:10, and I want to read it, say, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it to the full. NHIF, Shif, there's no fullness of life there. Education sector is in trouble, isn't it? We want to see a transformed president who is coming to talk to his employers. Remember that it's a scorecard day. Today is my scorecard. Fred, if you are to meet your boss today to display your scorecard, maybe tomorrow, how will it look like? These are what I've achieved. I've fallen short of this, isn't it? Because the records are very clear, isn't it? And then you do address. But I also want to say that there's something that you have to know. The purge in Parliament cannot be explained. Even this address cannot be addressed without Raila Odinga inside it somehow, because you look at the AUC seat has led to the formation of broad-based government. And now, how Raila will have to succeed in the AU also should be addressed, because this is the last address before we go to AUC. They also talked about less cash to Raila Odinga for his AU. Raila also has to tell the nation why is AU or Raila is so important that he will put his time, money. I'm hearing now he has a jet to go to 5 countries. So is that important? Is it a priority? And why is Raila's going to AU important? Because we don't want people to say in social media, want to hear from the house of from the horse's mouth. Why is this an important venture? Then now the complaints people are having, security issues, should also be well addressed, because these issues should not be about telling people no one has disappeared, but saying, I put security measures. You know, Moi used to give directives, mara moja, mara moja, mara moja. Sivyo? We want to hear, iyo ifanyike mara moja. So how is he going to tell these people direction? I want to expect the president to give 1 or 2 executive orders and don't talk too much, because Kenyans already are getting tired of too much talk and less action. Kenyans want to see action on the ground. The key performance indicator is that there is electricity is working, roads are working. At the same time, this is addressed before Christmas. Is there any Christmas reprieve on Kenyans' pocket? Because some people like us, we still don't know whether we are traveling or not, whether we shall eat chapati or not. People are expecting again some economic vibe. But the most important thing, he also has to tell us how the broad-based government that he has formed with Raila Odinga is going to help him salvage the policies he's making. And I want him to stick to the constitutional requirement of the State of the Nation address without veering too much as if now he's reading the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. It is not about the day to read the manifesto. It's the day to tell us, this where I took it, this where we are. We are on the path here, because I can tell you, if we are going to Mombasa, if you have not seen Voi and you have been driving and you are not seeing Voi, you should be worried that you are not getting there. So we want to know whether we are going to Mombasa by passing through Voi. Okay. Voi has a special place in my heart because my wife comes from there.
All right.
It's important.
Asante sana, Professor Fred Ogola, economic and governance expert, and Stephen Munania, Deputy Governor, Murang'a County, our panelists this morning on State of the Nation. As we look forward to the State of the Nation address by the President tomorrow before the joint houses of Parliament. And the day before that happens, the headline on the front page of the Daily Nation reads, "Things fall apart. Will the President be able to turn around the general sentiment?" But things are not good at all in this country. So thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time at TV 47. After the break, we discuss matters related